The moment hung frozen in time. Her ex-husband stood in the center of Minho's penthouse, surrounded by armed men, that cruel smile on his face like he'd already won. Belfric's arms tightened around Nari, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. Minho didn't move, his gun steady, his body a wall between her and the threat. Then he did something she didn't expect. He laughed, low and cold and utterly devoid of fear. Her ex-husband's smile faltered. Minho tilted his head slightly, and suddenly the penthouse was flooded with red laser sights. Dozens of them, coming from the windows, the balconies, the rooftops across the street. Her ex's men looked around, panic replacing confidence. Minho's voice was soft, almost bored. Did you really think I wouldn't have snipers on every building within 1,000 meters of my home? That I wouldn't have men positioned in the stairwells, the elevators, the parking garage? You walked into my territory and thought you had the advantage? He took a step forward. Drop your weapons, all of you, or my men will paint these walls with your blood, and I'll sleep just fine tonight. Welcome to K Fairy Tale Stories, besties. This is part 2 of this story. Please, if you haven't watched part 1, do well to watch it. The armed men hesitated, looked at her ex-husband for guidance. He'd gone pale, sweat beading on his forehead. One by one, they lowered their guns. Minho gestured, and his own men emerged from the shadows, efficient and silent, disarming the intruders and forcing them to their knees. Minho walked toward Belfric's ex-husband with the controlled grace of a predator, stopped inches from his face. You made 3 mistakes tonight. First, you threatened my woman. Second, you threatened my child. Third, you thought I wouldn't kill you for it. Her ex tried to straighten, tried to find his arrogance again. She's my wife, that's my baby. You can't just... Minho hit him. One brutal punch that sent him crashing to the floor. Blood poured from his nose. Minho crouched beside him, grabbed his hair, forced him to look up. She's not your wife anymore. You threw her away, and Nari? His voice dropped to a whisper. Nari is mine because I was there, because I held Belfric's hand while she gave birth, because I stayed up every night making sure they were safe. You're nothing to that little girl. And after tonight, you'll be nothing to anyone. He stood, gestured to his men. Get him out of here. I don't want to see his face again. They dragged her ex toward the elevator, his protests echoing until the doors closed. The other men were led away one by one. And then the penthouse was silent again. Minho holstered his gun, turned to face Belfric. She was shaking, Nari crying against her shoulder. He crossed to them immediately, wrapped both of them in his arms. It's over, you're safe. I promise. Belfric buried her face in his chest, tried to breathe. He found us. How did he... It doesn't matter. He won't get close again. Minho's voice was absolute. I'm moving us. Tomorrow. Somewhere he can't find. Somewhere no one can touch you. She pulled back, looked up at him. I don't want to run. His jaw tightened. Belfric, I want to fight. I want to end this, permanently. Something flickered in his eyes. Pride, fear, love. You don't know what you're asking. She met his gaze steadily. Yes, I do, so tell me, what do we need to do? The next morning, Minho made arrangements. Legal ones first. He had his lawyers file emergency custody petitions, restraining orders, documentation of her ex-husband's abandonment and threats. But he also made other arrangements. The kind that happened in dark rooms with dangerous men. The kind that didn't involve courts or paperwork. Belfric watched him work, saw the machine of his world in motion, and understood for the first time just how powerful he really was. She should be afraid, should be disturbed. Instead, she felt protected, cherished. Like he would burn the world down before he let anyone hurt her again. By afternoon, Minho sat her down in his office. Spread documents across the desk. Your ex-husband is working with the Zhao family. Chinese syndicate trying to move into Seoul. They see you as leverage against me. If they can hurt you, they weaken my position. Make me look vulnerable. Belfric's stomach dropped. So this isn't really about me or Nari at all. Minho's expression was grim. No, it's about power. Territory. You're just caught in the middle. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she asked, What are you going to do? He looked at her, and she saw the war in his eyes. I'm going to end it. But first, I need to know something. He stood, walked around the desk, knelt in front of her chair. Took her hands in his. Marry me, she stared at him. What? Not for protection, not for legal reasons. Not because of Nari. His voice was rough. Marry me because I love you. Because I want you to be mine in every way possible. Because I want to wake up next to you for the rest of my life and know you chose me. Tears burned her eyes. Minho, your world is dangerous. Tonight proved that. What if something happens to you? What if... Then you'll be protected, provided for. My name, my family, my empire will be yours. But that's not why I'm asking. He cupped her face. I'm asking because I love you. And I need to know if you love me too. Not the protection I provide, not the safety me. Belfrek looked at him, at this dangerous, powerful, utterly devoted man kneeling in front of her, and knew her answer. I love you. I've loved you since you carried me out of the snow. Since you held my hand in the hospital. Since you looked at Nari like she was yours. She leaned forward, kissed him softly. Yes, I'll marry you. Relief and something fiercer crashed across his face. He stood, pulled her up with him, kissed her like he was drowning, and she was air. When they broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. I'm going to keep you safe. Both of you, no matter what it cost. She believed him. And that night, after Nari was asleep, after the guards were posted and the building was secure, Minho showed her exactly how much she meant to him. Slowly. Thoroughly. Until she forgot about danger and threats and everything, except the feel of his hands on her skin and the sound of her name on his lips. The next few days were strange. On the surface, everything seemed normal. Minho went to meetings. Belfrek took care of Nari. They had dinner together, played with the baby, talked about wedding plans, but underneath, tension built. Minho was preparing for something. She could see it in the way he moved, the phone calls he took, the late nights in his office. She didn't ask, just waited. Trusted. On the 4th day, a woman appeared at the penthouse. Tall, beautiful, elegant in a way that made Belfrek suddenly aware of her post-pregnancy body and casual clothes. The woman smiled at Minho like they shared secrets, spoke to him in rapid Korean, touched his arm familiarly. Minho introduced her politely. This is Park Ji-yeon. She handles international acquisitions for my company. Ji-yeon turned to Belfrek, her smile sharp. So you're the one who's captured Minho's attention. I must admit, I'm surprised. He's never been one for domestic life. Something in her tone made Belfrek's spine straighten. People change, Ji-yeon laughed. Do they? I've known Minho for 10 years. We've worked very closely together. She looked at him. Haven't we? Minho's expression was unreadable. Ji-yeon, we need to discuss the shipment, my office. They disappeared down the hall, the door closing behind them. Belfrek stood in the living room, Nari in her arms, and felt something ugly twist in her chest. Jealousy, insecurity, the fear that maybe she wasn't enough, that maybe Minho would wake up one day and realize he'd tied himself to a woman with baggage and a baby who wasn't even his. She tried to push it down, tried to be rational. But when Ji-yeon left an hour later, brushing past Belfrek with barely a nod, the feeling remained. That night, Minho found her staring out the window, Nari asleep in her arms. He wrapped his arms around her from behind, careful of the baby. What's wrong? She wanted to say nothing. Wanted to be the cool, confident woman who didn't get rattled by beautiful ex-colleagues. Instead, she asked, Did you and Ji-yeon ever— No. His answer was immediate. She wanted to. I didn't. He turned her to face him. Belfrek, look at me. She did, reluctantly. Ji-yeon is ambitious, ruthless, and good at her job. That's all she is to me. That's all she's ever been. He cupped her face. You're the only woman I want. The only woman I've ever wanted like this. Do you understand? She nodded, but he saw the doubt in her eyes, saw the fear, and it made something fierce rise in his chest. He took Nari from her arms, carried the baby to the nursery, put her down gently. Then he came back, locked the bedroom door, and spent the next hour proving exactly who he belonged to. Later, as they lay tangled together, breathless and sated, he whispered against her hair, You're mine, and I'm yours. Nothing and no one changes that. She finally believed him. Too fast for traditional planning, but Minho didn't care about tradition. He cared about making her his in every legal, official way possible before the situation with the Zhao family escalated. They married in a small private ceremony at his family estate outside Seoul. Just his most trusted people and a judge who owed him favors. Belfrek wore a simple white dress, held Nari in her arms while she said her vows, and when Minho slipped the ring on her finger, when he kissed her like she was the only thing in the world that mattered, she felt something inside her settle. This was real. This was forever. His family attended, though they watched her with cautious, measuring eyes. His mother was elegant and cold, clearly unsure what to make of her son's sudden marriage to a foreign woman with a baby. But when Nari started to fuss and Minho took her immediately, rocking her with practiced ease, something in his mother's expression softened. After the ceremony, she approached Belfrek, spoke in careful English. My son has never looked at anyone the way he looks at you. Belfrek wasn't sure if that was approval or warning. I love him. The older woman studied her, then nodded once. Good. He needs that. He's lived too long in darkness. She walked away, leaving Belfrek wondering what exactly Minho's life had been like before she stumbled into it. That night in their hotel suite, Minho told her. They lay in bed, the room dark except for city lights, Nari asleep in a crib nearby, and he told her everything. About his father, who'd built the family empire on blood and fear, about his older brother, who was supposed to inherit but died in a gang war when Minho was 19, about how he'd been forced to step into a role he never wanted, how he'd had to become hard and cold and ruthless to survive, about the people he'd hurt, the choices he'd made, the weight he carried. Belfrek listened without judgment. When he finished, she turned to face him, traced her fingers over the scar on his shoulder. You're not that person anymore. He caught her hand. I'm exactly that person. I just hide it better around you. No, her voice was firm. You're the man who saved me in the snow, who held my hand while I gave birth, who gets up at 3 a.m. to feed a baby who isn't even his. That's who you are. His eyes were bright in the darkness. She is mine. The way he said it made her heart clench. I know. They made love slowly that night. Quietly, so they wouldn't wake Nari. And afterward, as she drifted toward sleep in his arms, Belfrek thought that maybe, just maybe, they'd found their happy ending. She should have known better. The call came 3 days later. Minho was in a meeting. Belfrek was home with Nari, and 2 of Minho's men posted outside. She heard shouting, gunfire. She grabbed Nari, ran toward the panic room Minho had shown her. But before she could reach it, the door burst open. Not the Zhao family, not her ex-husband. Someone else. A man in a black mask, moving with military precision. He grabbed her before she could scream. His hand over her mouth. His voice low and accented. Don't fight. We're not here to hurt you. But Minho needs to learn that he can't have everything. He dragged her toward the window. Belfrek bit his hand, hard. He cursed, loosened his grip. She twisted away, shielding Nari with her body. You can take me, leave my baby. He hesitated, and in that moment, Minho's men burst in. Gunfire erupted. Belfrek dove behind the couch, covering Nari's ears, her body a shield. The fight was brutal and fast. When it ended, the attacker was dead, but Belfrek was shaking so hard she couldn't stand. Minho arrived 10 minutes later, took one look at the scene and went white. He crossed to her, pulled her and Nari into his arms. Checked them both frantically. Are you hurt? Did he touch you? Belfrek, talk to me. We're okay. Her voice shook. Minho, what's happening? His jaw was tight. The Zhao family. They're making their move. He helped her stand, kept one arm around her. Pack a bag. I'm getting you out of Seoul. No, she pulled back. No more running. Belfrek, I said no. Her voice was stronger now. You promised we'd end this, so let's end it. He looked at her, saw the determination in her eyes, and something shifted in his expression. If I do this, if I go after them, it's going to be violent. Permanent. Are you sure you want that? She thought about her daughter. About the life they were trying to build. About the fact that she'd never be safe, never be free, as long as these threats existed. I'm sure, okay. But you and Nari stay here. Secured, protected. While I handle this, she wanted to argue. But she also knew she couldn't help him fight. Could only trust him to come back. Promise me you'll be careful. He kissed her, hard, deep, like it might be the last time. I promise. He left that night with 20 men. Belfrek didn't sleep. Just sat in the nursery, watching Nari, waiting. The hours crawled past. Midnight 2 a.m. 4. Dawn broke over Seoul, and still no word. Belfrek's phone remained silent. The guards outside wouldn't tell her anything. She was going out of her mind with fear when the elevator finally opened. Minho walked out, alive, mostly unhurt except for a cut above his eyebrow and bruised knuckles. He looked exhausted. Looked like he'd been to hell and back. But when he saw her, relief crashed across his face. She ran to him. He caught her, held her so tight she couldn't breathe. It's over. His voice was rough. The Zhao family won't be a problem anymore. Your ex-husband won't be a problem anymore. No one will ever threaten you again. She pulled back, looked up at him. What did you do? He met her eyes steadily. What I had to. She should press for details. Should demand to know exactly what that meant. But looking at him, at the exhaustion and darkness in his eyes, she understood. Some things were better left unsaid. Are you okay? His smile was tired. Now I am. The next few weeks were strange. Peaceful but tense, like waiting for the other shoe to drop. But it didn't. The threats disappeared. Her ex-husband vanished, and rumors said he'd fled the country under circumstances that suggested he'd never return. The Zhao family's operations in Seoul collapsed overnight, and slowly, carefully, Belfrek and Minho started building a real life. He took time off work, actually stayed home. They fell into routines. Morning coffee together, while Nari babbled in her high chair. Walks through the neighborhood, Minho pushing the stroller like any other father. Quiet nights after the baby went to sleep, talking about everything and nothing. She learned more about him, about his childhood, his dreams before he'd been forced into this life, the fact that he'd wanted to be an architect once, before his brother died. She told him about her own past, about growing up in Lagos, about moving to Korea for graduate school and meeting her ex-husband, about the dreams she'd had before everything fell apart. They built something real, something that felt like home. But Belfrek also started to notice things. The way people looked at Minho when they went out, with fear, with respect. The way waiters stammered and store owners refused his money. The way other men stepped aside when he walked past. She was married to one of the most dangerous men in Seoul, and everyone knew it except her. One evening, they attended a charity gala. Minho's business required appearances, social capital, the illusion of legitimacy. Belfrek wore a green dress, remembering that this was how he'd first seen her. His eyes had gone dark when she'd walked out of the bedroom. He'd kissed her against the wall, careful not to mess up her makeup, and promised her that later, that dress was coming off. Now they moved through the crowd, his hand at the small of her back. People approached them, made polite conversation, congratulated them on their marriage. But Belfrek could see it, the fear underneath the smiles, the way people measured their words around Minho, the way men looked at her, wondering how she'd ended up with someone like him. Then Ji-yeon appeared. She'd been at the wedding, cold and professional. Now she approached with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Minho, Belfrek, how domestic you two look. Minho's expression didn't change. Ji-yeon. She turned to Belfrek. I'm surprised you came tonight. I heard there was an incident at your home recently. Must be terrifying living in Minho's world. Belfrek felt Minho tense beside her. Before he could respond, she smiled. Not at all. I trust my husband completely. Ji-yeon's smile sharpened. Of course. Though I wonder how long that will last when you really understand what he does. What he's capable of. Minho's voice was cold. That's enough. But Belfrek stepped forward, met Ji-yeon's eyes steadily. I know exactly what he's capable of. I've seen him fight for me, protect me, love me, and that's all I need to know. She slipped her hand into Minho's. If you'll excuse us, we were just leaving. Minho didn't speak until they were in the car, heading home. Then he turned to her. You didn't have to defend me. She looked at him. Yes, I did. Because she was wrong, and because I meant what I said. I do trust you, completely. Something in his expression cracked. He pulled her close, kissed her forehead. I don't deserve you, she smiled against his shoulder. Probably not, but you're stuck with me anyway. That night, after they got home, after they checked on Nari and dismissed the guards, they sat together in the quiet of their home. Minho held her hand, his thumb tracing circles on her palm, and she knew without words how much the evening had meant to him, how much her support had meant. 6 months passed. Life settled into something that felt almost normal. Nari started crawling, then pulling herself up on furniture. Minho baby-proofed the entire penthouse, personally patting every sharp corner. He cut back on work, delegated more, prioritized time with his family. Belfrek started taking Korean classes, started making friends with other mothers in the building, started to feel like Seoul was home, but there were still moments. Times when Minho disappeared for a day, came back with shadows in his eyes. Times when she'd wake in the middle of the night and find him standing at the window, watching the city like he was waiting for something. She never pushed, just held him. Reminded him she was there, that he wasn't alone anymore. One evening, Belfrek put Nari to bed and found Minho in his office. He was staring at a photograph. She walked up behind him, looked over his shoulder. It was a picture of a young man who looked like Minho. Same eyes, same jawline. Your brother? He nodded. He would have been 35 this week. She wrapped her arms around him from behind. Tell me about him. And he did. Talked about his brother for hours. About the plans they'd had. The life that had been stolen. The guilt Minho carried for surviving when his brother hadn't. Belfrek listened, understood. He'd be proud of you. Of the man you've become. The father you are. Minho turned in her arms. I'm not Nari's father. Yes, you are. Her voice was firm. Biology doesn't make you a father. Love does. Showing up does. And you've been there for her since the moment she was born. His eyes were bright. She's everything to me, both of you. I know, she kissed him softly. And we're not going anywhere. That night, as they lay in bed, Minho said something that made her heart stop. I want another baby, with you. A brother or sister for Nari. Belfrek turned to look at him. Are you serious? He nodded. I want to see you pregnant with my child. Want to be there from the beginning. Want to build a real family. She saw the vulnerability in his eyes. The hope, okay. His breath caught. Okay, she smiled. Yes, let's have a baby. He kissed her then, slow and deep. And in that moment, they both felt the promise of their future together. Over the next few weeks, their bond deepened in ways neither had expected. They talked about names for the baby they hoped would come. They planned for the future. And Belfrek felt herself falling even deeper in love with this complicated, dangerous, utterly devoted man. Then everything went wrong again. It started with a phone call. Minho was at the office. Belfrek was home with Nari. The baby was napping. She was making lunch when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. But something made her pick up. Hello? A woman's voice. Young, scared. Is this Mrs. Kang? Belfrek's stomach dropped. Only one group of people called her that. Yes, who is this? I'm calling from Seoul National Hospital. Your husband was brought in 20 minutes ago. There was an incident. You need to come now. The phone slipped from Belfrek's hand. The world tilted. She grabbed Nari, called Minho's second-in-command, demanded he send a car immediately. The drive to the hospital was the longest of her life. Nari cried, sensing her panic. Belfrek couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Just kept seeing Minho's face, kept remembering his promise to be careful. When she arrived, Minho's men were already there. Filling the hallway, grim-faced, she pushed through them, Nari in her arms, demanded answers. One of them, a man named Tae, stepped forward. Boss is in surgery. There was a serious incident. A targeted attack on his vehicle. Belfrek's legs went weak. How bad? Tae's expression was answer enough.
She sank into a chair, Nari clutched to her chest and waited. Hours passed. Nari fell asleep against her shoulder. The sun set, still no word. Belfrek prayed, bargained with God, promised anything if Minho would just be okay. Finally, a doctor emerged. Tired, he looked at Belfrek. Mrs. Kang, she stood. Is he? He's alive, stable. He sustained serious injuries in the accident, but he's going to recover. Relief made her dizzy. Can I see him? The doctor hesitated. He's still unconscious, but yes, follow me. She handed Nari to T, followed the doctor down the hall. And when she walked into that hospital room, when she saw Minho lying in that bed, connected to monitors, she felt something inside her break. She pulled a chair close, took his hand, and waited for him to wake up. It took 2 days. 2 days of her sitting beside him, leaving only when T brought Nari to her, then coming right back. 2 days of watching him sleep, of listening to his steady heartbeat on the monitors, of praying. On the morning of the 3rd day, his eyes opened. He looked around, disoriented, then his gaze found her. Belfrek. His voice was rough, broken. She leaned forward, tears streaming down her face. You're okay, you're going to be okay. He tried to sit up, winced. She pressed him back gently. Don't, you were in a serious accident, you need to rest. His hand tightened on hers. Nari, she's fine, safe, T's been helping me. Minho's eyes closed. I'm sorry. For what? For scaring you, for breaking my promise. She laughed through tears. You're alive, that's all that matters. He looked at her then, really looked at her, and something fierce crossed his face. I need you to do something for me. Anything. His voice was low. I need you to take Nari and leave Seoul. Today, there's a house in Jeju, private, secured. Stay there until this situation is resolved. Belfrek pulled her hand back. No. Belfrek, no. Her voice was firm. I'm not leaving you, we're not leaving you. Minho's jaw tightened. This isn't a request. Good. Because I'm not asking for permission. She leaned forward. You told me we were in this together, that we were a family, so stop trying to protect me by pushing me away. They stared at each other. Finally, Minho sighed. You're stubborn. I learned from the best. She kissed his forehead. Now tell me, who did this? His expression went cold. Business rivals, the Zhao associates, they want to hurt me. Then resolve this completely. He looked at her. You understand what that means? She met his eyes steadily. I understand that I want my daughter to grow up safe, that I want my husband to come home every night, that I want our life back. She paused. Do whatever you have to do. Something shifted in his expression. When this is over, I'm retiring, getting out of this world. We'll move somewhere quiet, raise our children away from all of this. Her breath caught. Children, plural. He managed a weak smile. You're pregnant, I can tell. She stared at him, put a hand to her stomach. How do you? The way you've been looking at me, the way you've changed, the way you cried when Nari learned to wave. He squeezed her hand. We're having a baby. Tears spilled down her cheeks. We're having a baby. He pulled her close, careful of his injuries. And I'm going to make sure we have a safe world to raise them in. I promise. Minho recovered faster than the doctors expected. Within a week, he was walking. Within 2, he was making plans. Belfrek watched him work from their temporary apartment near the hospital, watched him coordinate with his men, watched him prepare for whatever was coming. She didn't ask for details, just trusted him, made sure he rested, made sure he ate, made sure he remembered there was something worth coming back to. The final business meeting happened on a rainy night in late autumn. Minho kissed her goodbye, held Nari, promised he'd be back by morning. Belfrek made him promise, again and again, until he smiled and said, I'm not leaving you, not now, not ever. Then he was gone. She paced the apartment all night. Nari slept peacefully, unaware. Belfrek's hand kept drifting to her stomach, to the life growing there. Dawn came, no word. The sun rose higher, still nothing. Then finally the door opened. Minho walked in, exhausted. A few marks on his face, but alive. Whole, she ran to him. He caught her, held her like he'd never let go. It's done. His voice was rough. It's really done. No more problems, no more rivals. We're free. She pulled back, looked up at him. Free, he nodded. I kept my promise to you, to Nari, to our family. He pressed a hand to her stomach. All of us.
Poured everything into it, relief, love, hope. When they broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. I have something to tell you. What? I meant what I said. She kissed him. About retiring. I've already started the process. Transferring control. Setting up legitimate businesses. In 6 months, we can leave Seoul if you want. Start over, build whatever life we choose. Belfrek's heart soared. You do that? Give up everything? You're not everything. His voice was absolute. You and Nari and this baby, you're everything. The rest is just noise. She started to cry again. Happy tears this time. I love you. I love you too, he kissed her. Then Nari woke up, called out for them, and they both laughed. Minho went to get her, lifted her out of the crib. She wrapped her tiny arms around his neck. And for the first time in months, Belfrek felt like they might actually get their happy ending. 6 months later, they stood on a beach in Jeju. The house behind them was modest, comfortable, private, the kind of place where no one knew who Kang Minho used to be. Belfrek was 7 months pregnant now, her belly round with their son. Nari played in the sand at their feet, chattering away in a mix of Korean and English. Minho stood beside her, one arm around her shoulders, watching the sunset. Any regrets? She asked. He looked at her, then at Nari, then pressed a hand to her belly, felt their son kick. Not a single one. She leaned into him. Good. Because you're stuck with us. I wouldn't have it any other way. He kissed her temple. And as the sun set over the ocean, as their daughter laughed and their son moved inside her, Belfrek thought about everything that had brought them here. The snow, the fear, the danger, the love. It hadn't been easy, hadn't been simple, but it had been worth it. Every moment, every tear, every risk. Because in the end, she'd found something she never thought she'd have again. A family, a home, a love that was fierce and protective and utterly unbreakable. Minho tightened his arm around her. What are you thinking about? She smiled. Happy endings. He smiled too. This isn't an ending. It's just the beginning. And looking at him, at the life they'd built from ashes and danger and impossible odds, Belfrek knew he was right. This was just the beginning of their story. The dangerous kind, the beautiful kind. The kind that would last forever.